Hey guys, welcome back to another travel photo book inspiration video. This week I'm going to show you a travel photo book in an elegant slash minimalist style. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and make sure to check the notifications bell to never miss a new video. If you're a regular follower, you've seen these videos before where I show a photo book from the very beginning to the very end, every single page, talking a little bit about how I created these designs, what to watch out for, and what designs work best for what scenarios. And hopefully these videos are going to give you some inspiration for your next photo book project. So before I even start showing you the book, let me just say that I created this photo book in Affinity Publisher, and that's basically the same as Adobe InDesign, but it's a different version of it. And I didn't use the photo book company's editor. I created every single bit of the book myself from scratch. By the way, in a week or two, I'm going to publish a video on how I created the actual designs in the book, a tutorial on some of the layout and text elements. So tune in for that if you are into Adobe InDesign or graphic design. The photo book is 11 by 11 inches, 28 by 28 centimeters square. As you can see, it's lay flat, of course, and it was printed on silver halide printers on lustrous photo book paper. The cover of the book is matte and shine free. As you can see, it's nice and soft. By the way, the book was created by Sal Digital if you want to check out their books. So here is the front cover. Now, as you can see, it's totally shine-free, and for the front cover, I chose one main photo with some titles in the bottom. For the spine, I created this sans serif font, which shows me the destination and the year in bold. And the reason I used these fonts is because I talked about this so many times before, that if you have lots of photo books on a shelf or in a bookshelf, then you want to make sure that they line up really nicely next to each other on the shelf, so all of the fonts match and the placement of the text is also in line with your other photo books. So with this photo book series, when I started the series, I had to make a decision not just on the size of the book and the photo book company, but also on the spine of the book, because I knew that when I put them on the shelf, I want them to look really nice and neat. So this is tip number one, to always think about your spine before you embark on a photo book series project, to make sure that they look nice on the shelf. And I'm going to show you what I mean exactly. So here are a couple of other books from my travel photo book series, and as you can see, the year and the destination are all the same on all of these books, the same font, the same placement, and that way when I put them on the shelf, they look really nice and in a sequence. The back of my photo book is blank, and there's a tiny barcode in the bottom. So let's dive in. My photo book starts with a flyleaf, which is basically a blank double page spread. Now, unfortunately, Sal Digital does not provide this by default or free of charge with the photo books. The first page would normally start on the back of the front cover, which I really don't like. But in this photo book, I had a few extra pages to play with. So I purchased an extra 2 pages for the beginning and an extra 2 pages for the end, left them blank, and this way I could create a nice empty double page spread for the beginning and the end of my photo book. Now here is the first page of my photo book. If I haven't said so already, these pictures were taken on Hawaii and California, Los Angeles and San Francisco in 2019. And if you know me by now, I love using info pages for these photo books. And an info page is basically an introduction to your photo book with a map of your travel, a little bit of an introduction to how you decided on going on this trip, the best moments of the trip, some photos. And I also like to include a timeline which contains my itinerary and also some main points from the places we visited. So let's take this in bits. The first section here is the map, and for this specific design I created a very minimalist looking map, which is basically just country shapes without any roads or topography and no labeling. And you can see the countries visited in a darker shade, and the places that I flew from and to are highlighted on the map. This specific style comes in 9 different colors, So by the way, if you want to order any of these maps or info pages for your own photo book project, you can go onto my website, thetravelmapcreator.com, and you'll be able to get any of these for your project, of course, personalized to your own details and needs. So on the left side, I created this title, and it took me a long while to come up with a title that's minimalist but more elegant looking at the same time. And in this book, I wanted to go with a lowercase title in a very big size and in a very nice pastel color. And underneath for the subtitles, I'm using this little gray bar and some sans serif font. Underneath, I've got a little story about how we decided to go on this trip and 3 of my favorite photos, 1 from each destination on the trip. In the bottom, you can see my timeline with all the places where we stopped, and you can also see my itinerary, the flights, the flight numbers, times, checking into the hotels, and so on. You can also see a little shape here, a diamond shape. I decided to add a little bit of color to these pages, but just some very, very faint pastel colors. And I'm using a diamond shape to add a bit of geometry as well at the same time. And let's move on. So the first destination was San Francisco, and here again, my obsession with maps continue. This map is a new design that I created, and this one again is illustrated, but is not as kind of funky as the previous one. It doesn't have any hand-drawn characters or cartoons. It's basically just the city shape with the streets, parks, and shopping areas, and the places visited are highlighted with a little star place marker. I also entered a couple of street names. Again, this style is available from the Travel Map Creator. Here is my first double page spread about the hotel. I always say this: take photos of everything on the way, because you never know what you can use in your photo book, especially if you stay at a very nice hotel, because they deserve their own double page spreads in your photo book. The hotel had a lovely rooftop bar, so I just wanted to create a little design for it. Again, the diamond shape. Titles are the same as before, and now you can see here a little date as well. I like including dates in my photo books because then I know what time and day these photos were taken on the specific page. I used again the gray bar with a sans serif font, and it's always going to be in the top left corner. Now the layout, starting our roam in the city. Now, when I do my layouts, I really try to stay away from very busy layouts, and by busy I mean more than 6 photos, because the more pictures you use, the less detail you're going to see in these pictures. It's a good idea to save money and try to squeeze as many photos onto one page as you can. But if you like your photos and take time to take your photos, then I think you want to see the detail. And if you use more than 6 pictures on a 20-inch spread, then it's just going to be too much. So I try to alternate my spreads between 1-2 photos, single photos, and the most I usually go for is 5-6. But I try to keep them minimal, and I reserve it to photos which are not extremely important, or for selfies that I don't really want to see on a full page spread. Here is one of my favorite shots, California Street. I really wanted to stop here and get this tram line with the bridge in the background. It's a very famous kind of spot. Everybody takes a photo here. And these are the kind of shots that you want to display in your photo book on a double page spread, because obviously lay flat photo books are perfect for this. In this photo book, when I used my double page spreads, I included a wide border, as you can see. Now this is optional. You can stretch your photo all the way to the edges as a full bleed double page spread layout, but I didn't do that for 2 reasons. The first reason was because I think as soon as you add a little bit of a wide border, it already looks a lot more elegant. And the second reason was because I lost my camera on the first day of this trip. So every single picture had to be taken on my iPhone 8. And I hate taking pictures on iPhones. I do the occasional selfie and some food pictures, but I love taking my landscape photos on cameras. So I was really worried about enlarging these pictures too high up, because although iPhones can take very high resolution pictures, when you enlarge them too much, you'll see that they're actually a lot grainier than a camera photo would be. So anyway, it came out fine at this size, and since I had little space for the titles, I rotated it 90 degrees, which is a nice little variation with the titles, and I really urge you to do that in your photo books. You can see the diamond shape here continues. Another similar layout, a favorite shot of the Fisherman's Wharf and the inhabitants in a little bit of a smaller photo. And as you can see, the diamond shape now changes to blue to kind of match the overall color scheme of the double page spread. Here is a slightly busier layout. All of these pictures were kind of okay, but I didn't want to include them on a double page spread, but I didn't want to miss them out. So that's the perfect layout for those kind of pictures, just roaming around the city. Same here, going up to Lombard Street. And I think this is the busiest spread in my entire photo book, which is 7 photos. Here's Mrs. Doubtfire's house. If you know me, I love looking up movie scenes when I travel. When I went to Chicago, I had to find the Home Alone house, and in San Francisco, you can find Mrs. Doubtfire's house, and it's quite easy to find. The address is 2640 Steiner Street, or Steiner. I think it's German. It's a very long street, but I actually think this was the moment when I lost my camera, when I sat down in front of the house and I never took it with me. Here are some photos of houses in San Francisco. They look gorgeous, so I could have taken hundreds, but I tried to keep it minimal because they look quite similar, to be honest. And then a kind of Instagram style layout with pictures of dishes. These were some of my favorite dishes on those few days, and some pictures from the painted ladies. Again, these are kind of selfies, and I like selfies. I'm not going to say I don't like selfies, but I want to keep them smaller on the page because there's no need for them to be a full page layout. Let's move on. Here is another one of my favorite shots with a nice frame going around 2 pages. I think it really deserves that double page spread. And here is the Golden Gate. Now here I used a rounded shape, which doesn't really go with the book since the diamond shape kind of defines the geometry of this book. Now one thing that I didn't think about too much was that if you use lowercase letters, then obviously some of the letters are going to be further down than the imaginary line going under the text. And then I had to move my bar and the subtitles further down, which doesn't look so great, but I didn't want to change the typography just for the sake of these few letters. Here is one of those shots that you wouldn't really put into a photo book, but I always do my jumps at every beach, and Baker Beach was so pretty during sunset. And when you do these kind of bursts on your iPhone or camera, I think the best way to show them is in a sequence. So normally I would just use that one, which is in the air, but I think if you put them many small pictures next to each other on a spread as a sequence, it looks vintage and modern at the same time because it has that kind of film strip look, but also it's nice and clean because there's a lot of white space around. More photos from Baker Beach and the last night. Next destination was Maui, and here I created a very similar style map as for San Francisco, but this one is of the island, and again just pinpointing the locations we visited. And I wanted to include a second map which is showing the archipelago, highlighting the island, and again carrying on with this title and typography and changing the color of the main title every now and then. This was the first hotel we checked in, the Mauian at Napili Bay. It's a very nice, peaceful thing. And this was my 30th birthday when we arrived. It was the best birthday ever, unlike this year, which was horrific. But never mind, so just a kind of a selfie shot here as well. And this was just our little chilling station in front of our room. It's very pretty. Again, you can see the color of the diamond shape is moving along the color scheme of the spreads. Birthday dinner. My sister was very kind to me here. Lots of goodies on the table. Just using a little 30 in the background. Nothing too fancy. And here is our sunset photo. Again, when you use selfies, you don't want the selfie to be the huge full page spread and the sunset tiny, because although we like how we look, but I think the landscape photo is basically why we went to that place. And then you can obviously show a little selfie in a smaller portion on the other side. This was my morning walk. Again, kind of a thinner layout. These ones look even more minimalist with some text in the bottom. I think Milk Photo Books uses these kind of layouts very often in their photo books, and Artifact Uprising, Lahaina Day Trip, and The Evening Walk. And this one is more like a brochure kind of spread. It looks like advertising these kind of condos here, but it really isn't. It was just a nice shot along the way. And this was my sunset walk along Kapalua Bay. So just exploring the region around the hotel. Now this is the only photo which I wanted to include on a double page spread without any border. And the reason for that is because the people sitting here, if you move the photo far enough down into the bottom of the page, it almost looks like they're sitting at the bottom of your photo at the page, and then all you can see is the beautiful sunset sky with the palm trees. So some of these photos work really well on these double spreads. And again, bear in mind that this photo book is a square photo book, which is ideal for panorama shots, because 2 squares make up a fairly long panoramic shape. But if you have a landscape book to start with, like 11 by 8 inches, when you open that and create a double page spread, it's going to be really, really long and narrow. So it's going to be very hard to find a photo that fills the 2 pages without cropping too much. So that's why I usually stick with square photo books for these kind of travel projects, because I think they have the best sort of layouts for these pictures. Second island, Oahu. Again, the same style map for this one as well. And Waikiki Beach. Just the same kind of layouts. Here is another one of those double page spreads. Now, another good tip is when you have lots of portrait photos, try to not mix them too much with landscape photos. Instead, try to find your favorite portrait. And by portrait, I don't mean pictures of people, but vertical pictures, and put them nicely next to each other, because it creates a really nice layout when you have lots of portrait photos next to each other, especially if you have an OCD like I do. Beach fun, a couple of selfies, and the Diamond Head Monument, and the view from the top of Diamond Head Monument, deserving its double page spread. And this was my sister's birthday present to me, a helicopter ride over Oahu, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And the reason why I couldn't use these photos on bigger spreads or double page spreads is because I took them with my phone on a really shaky helicopter without any windows. So the wind was blowing in, it was shaking my hand, so all of these pictures are rubbish. They're really blurry. I couldn't control my shutter speed or anything. So it was making me really sad that I couldn't take nicer pictures here, but I wanted to still include them because the colors were beautiful and you could see the volcanoes and craters from above. Worth every penny. Last night in Oahu, same kind of layout that you've seen before. And then we had a short layover in Los Angeles. It was like 8 hours. We didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go back to LA or Hollywood because I've been there before. I didn't like it so much, but we've never been to Santa Monica. So we were like, let's go there. So that was just the high street or main street of Santa Monica and the vast beach. So just a couple of hours layover, and I actually went onto the roller coaster, which was so weird because I haven't been on one since I was like 10. And that's the last 2 pages, another empty double page spread. And that's the end of my photo book. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, subscribe for more.